Nate Diaz is a celebrity. He is a star. I always speak to his ability to draw people in, calling them box office.
There's something magnetic about his fighting style that is why he has the fan base. Every time he fights, I'm going to tune in.
Nate Diaz is very authentic. He's a unique person, a unique character, and that's why people love him so much.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey guys, welcome back to Athlete Central. Today we're going to talk about one of the fan favorites of the sport of MMA. Up there with the biggest stars the UFC has ever produced, Stockton's own Nate Diaz. Ask anyone with no knowledge of MMA to name 5 fighters, and you can be sure that Nate Diaz is making that list. So before diving into his lifestyle and net worth, let's take a look at the path that led him to this sort of superstardom. Number 5, the early days. Like most top athletes, Nate didn't come from a rich family, spending his childhood in a small one-story house with his mother, his sister, and his brother Nick, who's actually been considering a comeback lately following 6 years away from the sport. The Diaz brothers started learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at a young age, giving them a great base for their future careers. Both are now black belts under Cesar Gracie, one of the top practitioners of the art. Fun fact, before taking up BJJ, Nate was one of the top marathon runners at his school, which explains his insane cardio. Nate doesn't lose, he just runs at a time, gets thrown around quite often, and there might be a reason for it, as most of his losses come via decision. In 2004, Nate followed in his brother's footsteps and made his MMA debut at 19 years old, submitting Alejandro Garcia in the 3rd round of their bout at WEC 12.
Oh, he just repositioned, that's it. He just repositioned himself and he got it. You see that? Just a quick little move by Diaz to reposition himself. He got it, and there's your winner, Nathan Diaz. His first fight is a victorious one against a very game Alex Garcia.
And right out of the red corner, Nathan Diaz.
A lot of pressure on young Nathan Diaz.
However, his real success came after entering the UFC. Number 4, UFC stardom. When Zuffa bought the WEC, a plethora of exciting fighters were added to the UFC roster, Nate being one of them. He debuted on The Ultimate Fighter Season 5, and the reality show was a perfect outlet for his personality to shine through.
You want to fight in the house? Let's go.
Not in the house, not in the house, not in the house. Not in the house. Yo, Nate, on the house.
Following an amazing run of 4 submission victories in a row, the then 22-year-old Diaz won the show, beating some tough opponents such as Manny Gamborian and Gray Maynard in the process.
For the takedown, good sprawl. Nate looking to tee up. It's all over. He hurt himself. It is all over. His shoulder's dislocated. Gamborian dislocates his shoulder.
Declaring the winner by tap out, and now the ultimate finale, lightweight winner, Nate Diaz.
If you guys are enjoying the video, hit that like and subscribe buttons and keep watching to find out how Nate got to be as popular as he is. After showing his caliber on The Ultimate Fighter, Diaz went on a 4-fight win streak, which included an iconic triangle choke over Kurt Pellegrino, where he flipped the bird and flexed as Kurt tapped to the submission.
Double fingers and a fully locked and tied. It is all over. Whoa! Nate Diaz by submission.
Unfortunately, Nate failed to continue his good patch, going 8-8 in his next 16 fights. He did manage to stack up respectable wins against the likes of Takanori Gomi, Cowboy Cerrone, Jim Miller, and Mike Johnson, but was too inconsistent trading wins for losses. The aforementioned victory over MJ was the one that catapulted him into superstardom, as in the post-fight interview, he called out the biggest draw in the sport, the notorious Conor McGregor, to set up one of the most heated rivalries to date.
Yeah, Conor McGregor, you're taking everything I work for. I'm gonna fight your ass. You know what's the real fight? What's the real money fight is me, not these clowns that you already punked at the press conference. Don't no one want to see that. You know you beat them already.
The post-fight call-out will forever be entrenched in the MMA world, inspiring similar attempts by other fighters. My personal favorite is Max Holloway jokingly calling out DC for the daddest man on the planet fight.
Hey, if they need a heavyweight next week for DC next month, let me know. Daddest planet advantage, you're gonna get it.
Number 3, the super fight. All right, so let's get into the meat of things. McGregor versus Diaz, the fight that made Nate Diaz a household name. Conor's the biggest superstar in the sport, and in 2016, coming off his impeccable 13-second KO of the then #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, UFC featherweight champion Jose Aldo, he was at his peak of his popularity.
Relax and smiling. Oh no! He slapped him! Conor McGregor is the new UFC featherweight champion of the world!
Following the KO, the Irishman was scheduled to fight lightweight champion Rafael dos Anjos to become a two-weight world champion, something that had never been done in the UFC. However, the fight fell apart due to a foot injury sustained by RDA, and on only 11 days' notice, Nate Diaz stepped up to the plate to face McGregor at 170. With the amount of press the fighters managed to do leading up to the fight, you'd struggle to believe it was on such a short notice. The money talk was consistent in the heated buildup. McGregor teasing Nate about his purses prior to the fight and how the fight was going to change his life. As much as people might dislike Conor for that type of attitude, he was right. Nate made a whopping $620,000 from the first fight, more than he had ever made from a single fight in his entire career. And that's only the disclosed pay, excluding pay-per-view points, which would have been substantial because of the 1.5 million buys the fight generated. Nate shocked the world by submitting McGregor in the second round via rear naked choke. Well, a lot of us were Nate, including the bookmakers who valued his victory at odds as high as 4-1. Diaz had secured the biggest victory of his career, while McGregor's hype train was temporarily stopped in its tracks. The bookmakers did learn their lesson though, and made the betting line a lot closer for the rematch at UFC 202. Yet Nate was still an underdog at plus 115 for what, at the time, was the biggest pay-per-view main event in the history of the UFC, with 1.65 million buys. Despite losing the fight, Nate made a whopping $2 million in the rematch, and that again doesn't include pay-per-view points. If we ever see a trilogy between the two, people will undoubtedly tune in to watch. 5 years removed, the two are still the biggest stars in the sport. After his rivalry with Conor, the Stockton slugger gained a lot of exposure and popularity, which resulted in various sponsorship deals, which we will get to later on, so stay tuned. A lot of people doubted that Diaz can pull a lot of pay-per-view buys on his own without Conor's star power, but he proved them wrong in the next pay-per-view he headlined against Jorge Masvidal in UFC 244. Dana White created the BMF belt specifically for this Nate Diaz fight, and if a company is taking such a massive step in creating a new belt for your fight, you know you're a draw. The pay-per-view did around 925,000 buys in one of the biggest events of 2019, and Nate bagged another cool $500,000 despite losing via doctor stoppage at the end of the third round. After 1.5 years of inactivity, Nate finally has a fight booked against UK standout, #3 welterweight Leon Edwards in the first ever 5-round non-title fight on the pay-per-view at UFC 263. You can check out our breakdown of the headliner of the card, Adesanya vs. Vettori 2, by clicking the link below.
Number 2, net worth.
Let's take a look at how much the 35-year-old is currently worth. His long UFC career has led him to a total net worth of an estimated $11 million, making him one of the most valuable fighters in the organization. The UFC fights mentioned earlier in the video are the main source of his income, but Nate is involved in several businesses outside the octagon. Recently, he and his brother Nick have founded a CBD company called Game Up Nutrition, which produces CBD oil, hemp flour, and CBD pre-rolls, among other products. USADA recently removed CBD from their list of banned substances, undoubtedly making Nate a very happy man. He started freely smoking his product during press conferences and promoting his company.
Yeah, it's Game Up Nutrition. Me and my brother taught me all about that stuff too beforehand. He's like, you gotta do this, you get everything going for you right, because you can't really smoke before fights, and a month out you kind of take it off, and then it's good to have a piece of it in you still, because that's a piece of the seed that was started this whole journey anyway.
Nate also has partnerships with his brother's martial arts school, Nate Diaz Academy, and the clothing brand Represent Ltd.
Number 1, lifestyle.
Nate lives in a 3-bedroom house with a swimming pool in Stockton with his girlfriend Misty Brown and their 3-year-old daughter Nikayla Diaz. I don't know whether the name has anything to do with Nick. Jokes aside, Nate is very close with his brother, and you can't picture one without the other. The brothers have both adopted a vegan diet, which is pretty rare to see at the highest level of combat sports.
I fight, I cut meat out for about a month. I'd take the fight, I come home and I eat some meat. Like, all right, it's time, and then it would really mess me up because my body was not used to it. Like, it wasn't like something like, oh, I hate meat, you know, or anything like that.
This could explain Nate's physique, which isn't the typical ripped body that we have come to expect from an MMA fighter. Diaz does 2 training sessions a day, 6 days a week. Nate likes to keep things pretty private. The public really doesn't know much about his life beside his love for the green and his dedication to fighting. I know he isn't very active, but when in camp, Diaz does 2 training sessions a day, 6 days a week. That wraps up today's video about the Stockton Slugger. What is your favorite Nate Diaz fight? Is Nate your favorite MMA fighter? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching today's video. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to never miss a video. Until next time.